Welcome to the Speak English podcast. Listen, learn, and speak with confidence.
So, if I ask you to tell me about your childhood, right? Like the difference between sounding like a native English speaker and sounding like, well, a textbook.
Yeah.
It really doesn't come down to how many complex vocabulary words you've managed to memorize.
Not at all.
It actually comes down to a handful of, seemingly invisible structural words and this really specific psychological trick that we play on the listener's brain.
Right, because usually when we talk about a memory in a second language, the default instinct is just to deliver the facts.
Yeah, exactly.
We treat language like we're handing someone a grocery list. You look at the paper, it says eggs, milk, bread.
Right, totally functional.
It gets the job done. If you say, I went to school, I played games, I had a dog, the listener, well, they technically understand the information you're giving them.
Sure, they get it.
But it's an entirely transactional exchange.
Yeah.
It is completely cold.
It really is. It's like a pure data transfer. You're just transmitting historical coordinates, but you are completely stripping away the human element from it.
Yeah. And when you look at the linguistics of how native speakers actually share personal history, that data transfer approach is, well, it's the exact opposite of what happens in natural conversation.
Oh, definitely.
Natural reminiscing is a highly structured exercise in empathy.
Which brings us to the mission for today's deep dive. So if you're listening to this, you might be an English learner sitting somewhere in that intermediate to advanced stage, right?
That B1 to C2 level.
Exactly. Where you already know the grammar rules, but you want to break through to actual natural fluency.
Or you might just be someone who's, fascinated by the mechanics of language.
Yeah, how we communicate our most personal, vulnerable stories.
Right.
Either way, this deep dive is for you. We are going to unpack the specific conversational architecture that native English speakers use to reminisce about their childhoods.
Because when you stop handing people that grocery list and you start using these specific linguistic tools, you're essentially taking those ingredients and, well, cooking a warm, nostalgic meal.
Oh, I love that analogy. You're inviting the listener to actually sit down at the table with you.
Yes. And the materials we're synthesizing today reveal that this process of inviting someone to the table, it requires a specific 4-part architecture.
Right.
Sharing a childhood memory isn't just some random chaotic assortment of past tense verbs.
No, it's not.
It is a calculated emotional progression. You have to prepare the listener's brain, establish a rhythm, inject the emotion, and then bring them safely back to the present.
And mastering this elevates your speech from merely functioning to actually connecting with another human being.
Precisely.
I really want to focus on that preparation phase first because I think it's where most learners stumble.
It definitely is.
If I just walk up to you and say, when I was 10, I rode a bicycle every day. It feels abrupt.
Very abrupt.
It feels like I just pushed you into a pool without any warning.
Right.
The sources indicate that before we even get to the action, we have to use something called a spoken timestamp. Like we have to actively set the stage.
Yes. So the pragmatic function of a timestamp is to serve as a boundary marker in the discourse.
A boundary marker.
Yeah. We're moving from the everyday, present tense reality of our conversation into a completely different mental space.
Okay.
And the phrase that acts as the absolute gold standard for this in conversational English is back in the day.
Ah, back in the day. It's such a staple of casual conversation.
It really is.
But I want to break down why it works better than the alternatives. Let's imagine I stick to the grocery list approach, right? I want to talk about my childhood, and I say, previously, I did not have a smartphone. Or in the past, I rode my bicycle.
Oh, wow.
Right. Grammatically, there is not a single error in those sentences. So why do they fail so spectacularly in an actual conversation?
It's all because of the register and the formality they invoke.
Okay, unpack that a bit.
So language isn't just about meaning, right? It's about association. When you use a phrase like previously or in the past, you are invoking the register of a courtroom or maybe a historical documentary.
Like a corporate report or something.
Exactly. Those phrases are designed to be objective. They actively distance the speaker from the emotion of the event to preserve neutrality.
Ah, right.
But childhood reminiscing demands subjectivity. It demands warmth.
Right. It's deeply personal.
Yeah, and back in the day is inherently subjective. It doesn't point to a specific date on a calendar. It points to an era of your life.
I see.
It acts as a cognitive prime, essentially telling the listener, hey, I am about to ask you to feel something with me.
It completely sets up an expectation. I mean, if I start a sentence with, in 1998, you might expect me to talk about the stock market or a political election.
Or something historical.
But if I start with, back in the day, you are bracing for a story about neighborhood kids, old video games, or, really bad haircuts.
Exactly. It does so much heavy lifting before the verb even arrives.
It really does. Look at the example provided in our material. Back in the day, we didn't have smartphones, so we'd just ride our bikes around the neighborhood until the streetlights came on.
That sentence is just a masterclass in mood.
Isn't it?
The timestamp immediately softens the listener's critical faculties. They aren't fact-checking you. They're stepping into the scene you're painting.
Yeah, the streetlights, the bikes, it all rests on the foundation of that opening idiom.
It's structural.
But let me test the boundaries of this idiom, because this is where language learners often get tripped up.
Okay, sure.
Let's say I went to a really fantastic, quaint little coffee shop downtown, but I went there 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, okay.
Can I look at you and say, man, back in the day, I had the best espresso at that shop? I mean, 2 weeks ago is technically in the past, right? It is a bygone day. Does the phrase function there?
No.
Mm-hmm.
No, it completely collapses in that context.
Really? Completely collapse?
Yes. If you deploy it for an event that happened 2 weeks ago, a native speaker will experience a cognitive misfire.
A misfire. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, they will likely assume you are being heavily sarcastic, or they'll just be deeply confused.
Yeah.
The idiom requires semantic weight.
Semantic weight? You mean it requires actual literal time to have passed?
More than just time, actually. It requires a paradigm shift.
Oh, a paradigm shift.
Yeah, back in the day inherently implies a generational gap, or at least a major life phase transition.
Like going from college to adulthood.
Exactly. It is designed to contrast a bygone era with the present reality. It requires the speaker to be talking about a time when the rules of the world, or the technology, the culture, or even just the rules of their own personal life were fundamentally different than they are right now in this room.
Wow.
2 weeks ago doesn't offer a paradigm shift. It's just a Tuesday.
That makes total sense. It's not just the past. It's a completely different past, an era where you were fundamentally a different person operating under different rules.
Precisely.
So we've successfully teleported the listener to this bygone era. We've set the mood with our timestamp.
We have.
But now we hit the second major hurdle for an English learner. How do we properly describe the activities we actually did? Because if I revert to the simple past tense, like I played, I ate, I went, it still feels a bit flat, doesn't it? It doesn't capture the texture of childhood.
No, it doesn't, because childhood is fundamentally not about isolated events.
It's not.
No, it is built entirely on repetition. It is about routines, habits, and daily schedules that, frankly, you likely had very little control over as a kid.
Oh, that's so true.
The simple past tense, saying something like, I played, often implies a punctual action.
Punctual meaning like a one-off thing.
Exactly. Something that happened once and then finished. To capture the repetitive texture of childhood, our sources introduce the anchor grammar of reminiscing. And that is the phrase, used to.
Used to. I mean, it seems so basic, but it is doing an incredible amount of psychological work under the surface.
A massive amount.
I know we aren't here to do a basic grammar drill, but I want to talk about how native speakers actually process this phrase in connected speech, because I think that's where learners get lost listening to it.
Yeah.
We don't really enunciate it as two distinct, sharp words, do we, like used to?
We rarely do, and this is a crucial point for advanced listening comprehension.
Right.
In natural connected speech, phonological reduction takes over.
Phonological reduction.
Yeah, the D in used and the D into, they just blend together. And the vowel is reduced to a schwa sound.
So it sounds more like usta.
Exactly. So used to becomes usta. I used to play. We used to go.
I used to play. Yeah. And that blending almost creates a softer, more fluid sound, which perfectly matches the nostalgic tone we're going for anyway.
It really does.
It physically sounds less rigid than saying, I did play.
Exactly. But beyond the phonetics, the grammatical function is what makes it the true anchor of the memory.
How so?
Used to is utilized to describe repeated past habits, routines, or stakes that occurred in the past, but are explicitly no longer true today.
Ah.
It is a marker of habitual aspect, not just simple past tense.
I think the efficiency of that is what's so striking to me. I mean, language is an economy, right?
Absolutely.
We're always trying to convey the maximum amount of complex meaning with the minimum amount of syllables. And used to is just incredibly efficient.
It really is.
Let's analyze the source example here. Quote, I used to spend every single summer at my grandparents' house in the countryside. End quote.
Let's pull that apart. What is the speaker actually communicating to the listener's subconscious there?
Well, if I just use the simple past and say, I spent the summer at my grandparents' house, the listener's brain processes that as a one-time historical fact.
Right, like maybe it was the summer of 1999.
Exactly, it was a singular event. But the moment I inject those two reduced words, I used to spend, I am downloading a massive file of unspoken information directly into the listener's brain.
What's in the file?
I'm saying, number one, I did this repeatedly as a child. Number two, it was a foundational routine of my early life, not just an anomaly.
Yeah.
And number three, which is probably the most important, I do not do this anymore. This era is permanently closed.
Exactly. You are conveying the entire life cycle of a habit in a single grammatical structure.
It's so cool when you think about it.
It creates an immediate, sharp contrast between then and now without requiring a clunky defensive explanation.
Right. You don't have to say, I spent summers there, and I did it often, but now I live in the city, and I haven't been back in 10 years.
No, the grammar does all that work for you. It lowers the cognitive load for both the speaker and the listener.
I look at it like a time machine, honestly. But it's a time machine with very strict programming.
I mean?
Well, the simple past tense is like a tourist time machine. It can drop you off anywhere for a quick 24-hour visit.
Okay, I like this.
You punch in a date, you go, you see the Eiffel Tower, you take a photo, you come back. I visited Paris. I broke my arm. I ate a sandwich.
Very punctual.
Right. But used to is a time machine that absolutely refuses to visit tourist traps.
Interesting.
It only takes you to places you actually lived in or environments you occupied so frequently that they literally shaped your identity.
Wow.
It strictly separates a foundational childhood routine from a one-off random historical event.
That distinction between the tourist and the resident of the past is vital for language learners to internalize.
It really changes everything.
It does. When an advanced learner masters used to, they stop sounding like a tourist pointing at old photographs of a country they barely remember.
Oh, that's good.
They sound like a resident of their own history.
Yeah.
It gives the native-speaking listener immense confidence that what they are hearing is a deeply embedded part of your life. And that builds a lot of trust in the conversation.
Okay, so let's check our progress on this conversational architecture we're building.
Okay.
We have successfully deployed our timestamp to set the scene back in the day.
Check.
We have established the routine using our anchor grammar, used to.
Check.
We have the time, and we have the action. But our material makes a very sharp pivot here, pointing out that describing what happened is really only the skeleton of the story.
A skeleton doesn't have a heartbeat. You can have a perfect timestamp and flawless habitual grammar. But if you stop there, you're still essentially just reading a highly accurate grocery list.
It's still just facts.
To give the conversation true depth, you have to transition from describing the external world of the past to describing your internal state in the present.
Oh, okay.
You have to reveal how it feels to look back.
And the sources refer to this as the emotional palette.
The emotional palette, yes.
We're shifting from describing actions to deploying highly specific emotional vocabulary. And the first word they highlight as the absolute core engine of these conversations is nostalgic.
Nostalgia is a remarkably complex concept to navigate in the second language.
I can imagine.
By definition, it is an adjective meaning a sentimental longing or an affectionate affection for a period in the past.
Okay.
But to truly use it effectively, we need to understand the psychological mechanism at play.
What's the mechanism?
The root of the word comes from Greek, nostos, meaning homecoming, and algos, meaning ache or pain.
Nostos and algos.
Yeah. It is the ache to return to a home that perhaps no longer exists.
The ache. I mean, that implies a slight bit of sadness, doesn't it? Even if the memory itself is happy.
Yes, and that is exactly what gives the word its incredible conversational power.
Really?
Yes. When you explicitly tell a listener that you are feeling nostalgic, you have the power to take something entirely mundane and transform it into something sacred.
Give me a concrete scenario for that. Because if I'm feeling an ache, surely I'm talking about something monumental, right? Like a lost love or a deceased relative or a life-changing event.
Not at all.
No.
In fact, in the context of childhood reminiscing, it is almost exclusively used for the mundane.
Okay, color me surprised.
Think about the reality of being a child. Your world is very small. Your activities are profoundly ordinary.
That's true.
Eating a specific brand of heavily sugared cereal on a Saturday morning while wearing pajamas.
Oh, man, yeah.
Sitting on a specific scratchy patch of carpet in your living room to be close to a television set. playing a very basic, repetitive video game on a bulky classic console.
Right. And if I just list those things out, like I ate cereal, I sat on the carpet, I played a game, I am going to bore the listener to tears.
Precisely. Because they are objectively boring actions.
Yeah.
But the moment you apply the word nostalgic to them, you change the lighting in the room entirely.
Always.
Look at the source example. Quote, listening to that old song makes me feel so nostalgic from middle school. End quote.
Okay.
A generic pop song you heard on the radio when you were 12 isn't inherently a masterpiece of musical composition.
Usually it's garbage.
Right. But because it is tethered to that era of your brain's development, because you declare that you feel nostalgic for it, it suddenly holds this immense, unassailable emotional weight.
You're essentially telling the listener, hey, I know this song is silly or the cereal is just sugar and food coloring, but to me it represents safety.
Yes.
It represents a time before I had to pay a mortgage or worry about the state of the world. Nostalgia acts as a bridge between the incredibly boring action of the past and the very complex, sophisticated emotional landscape of the present.
It signals vulnerability.
Vulnerability, yeah.
You are admitting that a simple pop song has emotional power over you. And vulnerability is the absolute fastest way to build human connection in any conversation.
That is so true, which leads right into the second word in our emotional palette, which I think carries even more weight. Cherish.
Cherish is an exquisite verb.
It really is.
It means to hold something dear, to value it deeply, and to protect its place in your memory.
Protect it. Wow.
Yeah, it implies a sense of guarding something precious against the ravages of time.
Let's talk about how native speakers actually use this word pragmatically, though. Because I don't hear people saying, I cherish in everyday casual conversation very often.
You don't.
It feels like a word you have to, earn the right to use.
You do have to earn it. Native speakers employ cherish as a macro-level framing device.
Macro level.
Yeah. When you use this word, you are almost always taking a step back from the granular, microscopic details of the story you're telling. You are zooming out to explicitly state the overarching emotional value of the entire era.
Zooming out.
Yes, the source example illustrates this zooming out effect perfectly. Quote, we didn't have much money back then, but I really cherished those quiet Sunday mornings with my dad. End quote.
Let's analyze the mechanics of that sentence, actually.
Sure.
The speaker isn't zooming in to say, I cherish this specific brand of toast we ate, or I cherish the particular newspaper he was reading.
No, not at all.
They are cherishing the atmosphere, the bond, the quietness itself.
They are placing a protective golden frame around that entire chapter of their life.
I love that image, a golden frame.
By using cherish, they elevate the memory from a simple recollection of a Sunday morning into a foundational pillar of their current identity.
Wow.
They're telling the listener, this memory is part of the architecture of who I am today.
But I want to push back on this a little, or rather I want to establish some guardrails for the language learners listening.
Please do.
Because if I learn a powerful new word, my immediate instinct is to start using it everywhere to sound fluent.
Naturally.
What if I use cherish to describe something fantastic that happened very recently?
Oh, boy.
Like, what if I say, I went to this amazing Italian restaurant last night and I absolutely cherish that plate of pasta. What happens to the conversation?
The conversation completely stalls because you have committed a pragmatic error known as semantic bleaching.
Semantic bleaching? What is that?
You are taking a word with immense, heavy meaning and applying it to something totally trivial, thereby bleaching the word of its power.
Oh, like washing the color out of it?
Exactly. If you say you cherish a plate of pasta from last night, a native speaker will likely laugh, assuming you're using hyperbole for comedic effect.
Because the pasta hasn't been in the vault long enough.
Exactly. Cherish is reserved for deep, enduring emotional value. You cherish lifelong friendships. You cherish family heirlooms.
Foundational childhood memories.
Yes, it requires temporal distance. Remember the back in the day gap we discussed earlier?
The paradigm shift.
That same gap is required here. A memory has to cure over time.
Like cheese.
Basically. It has to age. It has to survive the natural forgetting process of the brain before it earns the right to be cherished.
So you cannot rush nostalgia and you cannot instantly cherish a Tuesday night dinner. It requires the seasoning of time.
understanding that restriction, knowing not just a dictionary definition of the word, but the cultural gravity and the temporal requirements it holds, that is exactly what separates a B2 learner from a C2 master.
That's a huge takeaway. Okay, so we've explored the warm, fuzzy side of this architecture. We are cherishing Sunday mornings and feeling nostalgic for pop songs.
We are.
But let's be honest about the reality of childhood. It isn't a highlight reel of endless sunshine and perfect friendships.
Sadly, no.
Growing up fundamentally involves loss. It involves leaving phases of life behind, and more specifically, it involves leaving people behind.
Yes.
The sources point out that English has a highly specific, very nuanced way to handle this bittersweet reality without ruining the cozy mood of the conversation.
Handling negative or sad transitions in a second language is notoriously difficult because you risk sounding overly dramatic or, inappropriately blunt.
Right.
When we talk about our childhood routines, the things we used to do, we inevitably have to mention the friends who are right there beside us, but who are conspicuously absent from our adult lives today.
And the phrase the sources provide for this sort of surgical maneuver is drifted apart.
Drifted apart. It is a phrasal verb, and its linguistic mechanism is brilliantly designed for face saving.
Face saving. I know in sociolinguistics there is this concept of face-threatening acts, right?
Yes, precisely.
When we talk about failed relationships, it's very easy to threaten someone's face or their reputations.
Yeah.
If I say we had a massive falling out, or we stopped speaking, or she cut me off, I am instantly injecting conflict into the room.
You are injecting conflict, you're assigning blame, and frankly, you're inviting gossip.
Oh, definitely.
The listener immediately thinks, oh, what happened? Who betrayed whom? Whose fault was it? The cozy, nostalgic atmosphere you worked so hard to build is instantly destroyed, replaced by interpersonal drama.
It turns a childhood memory into an episode of reality TV.
Precisely. But Drifted Apart is entirely blameless. It is a culturally accepted polite fiction.
A polite fiction.
Yeah, it acknowledges the natural, bittersweet reality of growing up, but it completely removes human agency from the severing of the tie.
It doesn't cast blame on you, and it doesn't cast blame on the other person.
Exactly.
I'm trying to think of the best way to visualize this mechanism. I used to think of it like two boats on a lake floating away from each other.
Sure.
But that feels a bit dramatic and cliche. It actually reminds me more of physics, honestly.
Physics? How so?
Think about driving a car away from a city while listening to a local radio station.
Okay, I'm with you.
When you are in the city, when you're in primary school, the signal is incredibly strong. The music is clear. It's the soundtrack to your life. But as you drive away, as you go to different high schools or move to different states, the physics of distance just take over. The signal gets static. It fades.
Yeah.
Eventually, you're just listening to a different station.
Oh, that is a vastly superior metaphor.
Right, because you didn't smash the radio in anger. You didn't hate the station.
No.
The laws of distance simply overpowered the signal.
Exactly. And let's look at the source example to see how smoothly this blameless physics works in a sentence. Quote, my best friend from primary school and I were inseparable, but once we went to different high schools, we just slowly drifted apart. End quote.
It is so gentle. We just slowly drifted apart. It accepts the reality of the static.
It really does.
It communicates, hey, we didn't fail at being friends. The circumstances of our geography and our maturity just naturally pulled us into different frequencies.
It requires a significant level of emotional and linguistic maturity to deploy this phrase correctly.
Oh, God.
When an English learner uses drifted apart in the middle of a nostalgic story, they are demonstrating absolute cultural fluency.
They're showing they get it.
They're showing that they understand the English preference for avoiding direct interpersonal conflict in polite storytelling. They were showing empathy for their past self and their past friends.
It's a really beautiful tool.
It is.
So let's take a breath and survey the toolbox we have painstakingly assembled over the last 40 minutes or so.
Okay.
We have the pragmatic timestamp to shift the listener's brain back in the day.
Yeah.
We have the anchor grammar to establish the historical habit, used to.
Check.
We have the emotional palette to inject present-day subjectivity, nostalgic and cherish.
Right.
And we have the face-saving, graceful exit to handle the passage of time, drifted apart.
We possess all the raw, high-level materials required for a masterful conversation.
But having a pile of high-quality lumber doesn't mean you have a house.
No, it doesn't.
You have to know how to nail it together. How do native speakers instinctively weave all of these disparate elements into one seamless, natural story that actually captivates the listener?
This is where we reach the final, crucial synthesis of our material. The sources outline a highly specific four-stage conversational arc.
A four-stage arc.
We can call it a masterclass in narrative architecture.
Oh, I like the sound of that.
It is a chronological flow that native speakers use almost subconsciously to guarantee that the listener stays engaged and emotionally connected from the first syllable to the last.
I love a good structural breakdown. Walk us through the four stages, and let's use the full example provided in the sources to see it in action.
All right. Stage 1 is setting the scene.
Right.
This is the deployment of the timestamp. You must establish the boundary marker first. The example starts, man, back in the day, summer vacations felt like they lasted forever.
The era is established. The mood is set. We are in the hazy days of endless summer.
Exactly.
The listener's critical brain is turned off and their narrative brain is turned on. What is stage 2?
Stage 2 is describing the habit.
The habit.
You move immediately from the general era to the specific recurring action. You anchor the memory with used to. The example continues, my neighborhood friends and I used to build tree houses in the woods behind our house every July.
Okay, this is vital. We aren't just floating in a general feeling of summer anymore. We have grounded the listener in a physical space, the woods, and a specific repeated routine, building tree houses every July.
Yes.
The time machine has landed, and we have proven we are residents, not tourists.
Which is the necessary prerequisite for stage 3, adding the emotional tone.
The palette.
Now that the listener is standing in the woods with you, you transition from describing the past to expressing how the past feels from your present perspective.
You deploy the emotional palette.
The example pivots. Looking at old photos of those tree houses makes me so nostalgic. I really cherish how simple life was then.
The camera angle shifts beautifully there, doesn't it?
It does.
It brings the focus right back to the present moment. Looking at old photos right now makes me nostalgic. It creates a tether between the child building the treehouse and the adult holding the photograph.
And that tether sets up the final stage, stage 4, connecting to the present.
Closing the loop.
You must close the narrative loop. You update the listener on the current reality, utilizing your bittersweet vocabulary if necessary to bring the conversation safely back to the present day.
And the closing line.
The closing line is, we eventually drifted apart when everyone moved away for university, but those memories still make me smile.
It's a perfectly closed circle. It is a complete emotional journey. I want to read the entire arc together seamlessly so you, the listener, can hear how naturally it flows when the architecture is invisible.
Please do.
Okay. Man, back in the day, summer vacations felt like they lasted forever. My neighborhood friends and I used to build tree houses in the woods behind our house every July. Looking at old photos of those tree houses makes me so nostalgic. I really cherish how simple life was then. We eventually drifted apart when everyone moved away for university, but those memories still make me smile.
It doesn't sound rehearsed. It doesn't sound like a grammar exercise.
Yeah.
It sounds entirely authentic, yet it hits every single psychological, temporal, and linguistic checkpoint required to build a deep connection.
But I have to challenge this rigidity. I am an advocate for linguistic flexibility, as you know.
I know you are.
Let's say I'm an advanced learner, and I look at this 1, 2, 3, 4 order. Timestamp, habit, emotion, reflection.
Okay.
I understand it. But what if I want to play jazz with my language?
Play jazz.
Yeah, what if I scramble the order? What if I start with the emotion first? Imagine I walk up to you at a party and open with, I really cherish tree houses. I'm so nostalgic for them. My friends and I used to build them back in the day.
It is a valid question because language is generative and flexible. But if you scramble the order in that specific way, the conversational engine stalls.
Why?
The psychological reason this specific chronological flow is recommended by linguistic sources comes down to a concept we can call narrative grounding.
Narrative grounding. Explain the mechanics of that. Why does my jazz version fail?
Think about the cognitive load on the listener. If you start out of the gate with heavy abstract emotion, like, I deeply cherish this and I am incredibly nostalgic.
Yeah.
And the listener has absolutely no idea what object or event you are attaching that emotion to. It feels unearned. It feels overwhelming.
Yeah.
You are demanding that they share the emotional weight of a memory before you have even bothered to paint the picture of what the memory entails.
It's like dragging someone into a movie theater for the final tear-jerking climax of a film, but they miss the first 2 hours of character development.
Exactly.
They might see that you are crying, but they don't feel anything themselves because they aren't grounded in the story. They don't know who the characters are.
Precisely. You have bypassed the necessary context. This 1, 2, 3, 4 chronological flow works because it respects the listener's cognitive processing.
It grounds them in the scene first.
Yes. It builds a sturdy logical narrative bridge. You politely invite them into the era with the timestamp.
Yeah.
You show them the physical reality of the era with the habitual action. Once they are standing firmly beside you in that memory, then you reveal the subjective emotion.
And
finally, you hold their hand and walk back to the present day together with a reflection.
It is an act of conversational hospitality.
Conversational hospitality. That is a brilliant way to frame it. You are taking care of your guest, the listener, as you guide them through the museum of your history.
Yeah, you don't make them read the emotional plaque before they've even seen the artifact.
Exactly. And for an English learner, recognizing this architecture is incredibly empowering.
I can imagine it takes a lot of the pressure off.
It really does. When you're speaking in a second language, there's always this background panic of, what do I say next? Am I rambling? Am I making sense?
Right, the mental translation lag.
When you internalize this 4-step arc, that panic evaporates. You have a blueprint. Scene, habit, emotion, reflection. You just fill in the blanks with your own life.
It moves you from a state of cognitive overload into a state of flow.
And that flow is what native speakers perceive as true fluency.
So, as we bring this deep dive to a close, let's step back and look at the bigger picture of why any of this matters.
Okay.
Learning English, or any language really, is fundamentally not about passing a proficiency exam.
No, it's not.
It's not about ensuring you conjugate your verbs perfectly so a teacher gives you a gold star. It is about acquiring the necessary tools to transmit your internal reality into someone else's brain.
It is about sharing your authentic history.
By taking the time to understand the sociolinguistic warmth of back in the day, the efficient, reduced phonetics of used to, the protective, cured weight of cherish, and the graceful, face-saving acceptance of drifted apart, you undergo a transformation.
You really do.
You stop being a student handing over a clinical grocery list of facts, and you become a compelling storyteller, capable of extending true conversational hospitality.
You gain the ability to make a stranger feel nostalgic for a treehouse they never even visited.
That is the magic of language right there.
It really is.
But before we sign off, our extensive exploration of these mechanics has sparked a rather provocative thought that I want to leave you, the listener, to mull over on your own.
Oh, I'm curious.
Throughout this entire hour, we have established that all of these conversational tools rely on one fundamental mechanism, a sharp, distinct contrast between the past and the present.
Right.
The whole engine of nostalgia, the very reason back in the day functions as a cognitive crime, works because things were undeniably different then.
Very different.
The source example explicitly leans on the lack of technology to create this contrast. We didn't have smartphones, so we rode our bikes. The contrast is stark, an analog past versus a hyper-digital present.
Yeah.
But I want you to think about the childhoods that are being experienced or that you're observing right now in the present day. How will these childhoods be described in English 20 or 30 years from now?
Oh, it is a fascinating sociolinguistic puzzle.
When our daily routines are already entirely digital, when every single mundane moment is thoroughly documented on video, when we are continuously connected to a global network from the time we are toddlers.
Yeah.
What will the contrast be? Will a 20-something in the year 2046 sit down at a coffee shop and say, man, back in the day we only had the iPhone 15?
Right.
When you are constantly digitally tethered to every person you've ever met via social media algorithms, will the radio signal physics of drifted apart even exist anymore?
That's a great question.
Or will the very way we express nostalgia and the way we mourn the loss of old friendships have to fundamentally evolve because the analog mechanics of childhood have just disappeared?
We may see the birth of entirely new grammatical structures and idioms designed to describe the specific, overwhelming nostalgia of a fully documented life.
It's a wild thing to consider. How the grocery list of the future will look, and what kind of conversational fire people will have to build to cook a warm meal out of it.
Indeed.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us on this deep dive. We encourage you to take these tools, find a conversation partner, and try running your own favorite childhood memory through that 4-step arc. See how it changes the way you feel when you tell the story, and notice how differently the listener reacts to you.
It will make a difference.
Until next time, keep exploring the mechanics, Keep extending that conversational hospitality and keep telling your stories.